Hello, hello. I am Coach Jay, and today I like to talk about stages of grief. Before doing so, I always like to start my classes with a corny dad joke. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to. I had a joke about pizza, but it's too cheesy. But if you can take two deep healing breaths with me, in through the nose, out through the mouth, preferably with your eyes closed, but however you feel most safe. All right, and one more time. Like I said, I'm going to be talking today about grief and the stages of grief. So the stages of grief, and let's just maybe hone in on this class, like say the stages of grief from D-Day and afterwards. So the process can take anywhere from several months to several years or more for these stages to occur. Now, keep in mind they just don't happen like staccato. They ebb and flow. They come and go. I want to look at these stages and help you determine where you may be. However, let's look at some of the basic steps that we're going to jumpstart the healing journey. Okay. Before we get into the stages to see maybe where you are, I want to talk about steps to help on your journey from uh, tears to transformation. These steps, keep in mind, or in this maybe even this class is more geared towards people that are repairing and rebuilding. But if you are not, then simply just cater these to you. All right. So number one, if you've had a D-Day and you are repairing and rebuilding, one of the things you just want to do is acknowledge the infidelity. Um, Simply accept it, acknowledge it. No matter how much you want to ignore it, forget it, get on with life. It happened and it must be dealt with. If you try and cover this up or ignore it, it'll be patient, it'll wait for you. And then when life settles down or when you least expect it, grief will come and deal with you. So if you don't manage your grief, grief will manage you. Two, for those that are watching this and you were discovered, if you are in any way, shape, or form still involved with the AP, you absolutely 100% hands down without question must end the affair. In order to rebuild any relationship, any thought of a relationship, if you are watching this and you're the person who stepped out of the relationship, you must end any relationship with your affair partner. Any contact at all will cause further and unnecessary pain. And that means, do you even have to change jobs, relocate your family, put up some serious boundaries with certain people, whatever it takes, whatever you must do, you have to do it. The next one is talk to each other's emotional needs. You both have emotional needs during this time that you need to address and discuss and deal with them. There was emotional needs that weren't met when the person stepped out, and there's going to be emotional needs certainly that that probably were there before, but now certainly are not there for the person who did not stray. Now, let me just say this. The emotional needs that weren't met by the person who stepped out, maybe there were some of them were due to the relationship and the partner or the spouse or the significant other, but there could have also been emotional needs that the person who stepped out didn't give to themselves. So I'm not saying emotional needs weren't met. It's your fault. That's why they cheated. No, maybe they weren't in tune with their emotional needs or what to give them, or they weren't mature enough to allow themselves to see it or to experience it or to feel it. And they have a lot of work to do. So, regardless of where the emotional needs lack, it needs to be addressed. You have to, the next one is give up yourself. Having identified each other's needs, you have to work hard on those actions to change your behavior. Be creative in showing each other that, each other are valued and respected. And if you're the person whose trust was broken, try very hard not to judge the person you're with on their worst decisions, rather on how they right their wrong. Having said that, if you stepped out of the relationship, make sure you are acting in honesty, proactivity, transparency, integrity to right your wrong. All right, the next one is to just focus on restoring trust. So in order to restore broken trust, you have to be mindful of letting your partner know where you are. And in all areas, all the time, you must be honest, transparent, and work from a point of integrity. You want to make sure that you are becoming a completely different person. You want to make sure that your relationship does not look the same way as it was before D-Day. The next one is you just want to make some changes. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of life, which is probably one of the reasons the affair happened in the first place. So let go of obligations, let go of burdens, volunteers, hobbies, anything that's not absolutely fundamental for your survival, that becomes on the back burner. Restoring, repairing, and rebuilding is your mission number one. I don't care what in-laws are doing, outlaws are doing, or anyone in between. Your mission number one is to reestablish and repair and rebuild your relationship. Um, Start reconnecting, really reconnect. And I'm telling you, reconnect was just talk, talk, and talk even more. So, one of the things you guys can do as you're rebuilding, and this is again, kind of moving forward through these steps. I know I'm jumping around a lot. One of the things you can start doing, again, after trust, D-Day happened. Hopefully, it's a therapeutic disclosure. Um, you're being honest, you're being transparent, everybody's being working from a place of integrity. You got to start introducing laughter into your relationship. You got to introduce intimacy, and that might include even reminiscing about, how you first met or the birth of your children, old friends that you make that mean a lot to you. Make plans for future holidays. Go on dates together. Plan not only talking dates, like, okay, let's talk about the affair. Let's talk about the broken trust and what needs to be reestablished to build this strong foundation, but also dates in general. Um, Talk about what an exciting future you guys are going to have together. And absolutely, if you're the person that stepped out of the relationship, absolutely, please show regret and remorse. It's absolutely vital. The person that you hurt needs to know you're hurting because you hurt them. Now, I get it. If you're watching this and you stepped out, you are hurting as well. I always say a fair start in childhood. So you are probably hurting to begin with, and I get that. But the spouse you hurt has to know that you're hurting because you hurt them. And then when the time is right, and I say this for both parties, but primarily the party who was faithful, let's just use that term, forgive. And you want to forgive. Yes, it'll make everybody's life easier. It'll make your partner's life easier that you forgive them for what they did. But in all honesty, forgiveness should be substituted with self-love. You want to forgive because you don't want to carry this burden anymore. You want to forgive because you don't want this emotional baggage to be attached to every thought of your partner. So forgive. Yes, it'll do your relationship some good. Yes, it'll do the partner who hurt you good. But most importantly, it'll do you good. It'll set you free. So work on forgiveness when the time is right. Forgiveness requires generosity, but it's merely a decision. And it's a decision that you have to make and make over again, probably daily. And every time you get triggered in the future, you have to remind yourself of that decision. No, I forgave this person. So I know this thought is trying to, bring me back to a time I felt unsafe, but no, I forgave this person and I'm safe. You got to talk to yourself like you're crazy. I'm sure you're doing that enough of that now. So why not use it for the good? All right, let's look at some of the stages to determine where you are. So basically, I'm just going to go through some of the stages of grief, and then you can pinpoint, man, that resonates right now. Remember, they don't have to come in any particular order, and if any stage is unfamiliar, that's okay. You might be in several stages. You might be in and out. Like, there's no such thing as, okay, I'm in denial, and I'm in here, and I'm in this. You can, man, be in a couple different stages. You can be in one stage and back to another stage where you thought you were out of. And I mean, this is a crazy journey. It's just a crazy, crazy journey. But one of the stages, let's just say, is denial. On the discovery of the affair, there's an initial period of shock and maybe even denial. This may include making excuses for the betrayer. Yes, can you believe it? Making excuses for the betrayer. And this could be for various reasons. I'm sure you've heard of what is that? Not hyper bonding. That's what I call it, hyper bonding, but it's hysterical bonding. So that could happen. We make excuses for our partner. Of course, when the dust settles, man, we get upset with ourselves when we make excuses for our partner, but we can make excuses for our partner. Um, also making excuses because you want the story to change because you want to believe what you want to believe. You want to hear what you want to hear. So you might make excuses for them to actually alleviate the pain of something you want to hear, but that's not healthiest, unfortunately. This may include making excuses for what have you, just so you can be safe. Just be mindful of that. You yourself may even downplay all you heard. And the reason you might downplay it is because, again, you want to feel safe. And in order to feel safe, you're going to downplay all they did. Um, and I'll tell you something. Honestly, one of the things that a lot of mental health professionals try and do, and I get why they do it, but it's very harmful. They will even downplay your trauma. I'll never forget somebody that came to me and said, "Mr. J, I'm coming to you because I went to see a therapist after I found out my husband was with like 40 escorts." And the therapist said, "Well, in 8 years, 40 escorts, what is that? A handful a year." Yeah, I understand what the professional was doing. It was trying to like get you out of like, oh my God, the number 40. I get, but that does not help. That does not help. And if anything, now you have T trauma, therapeutic trauma. Um, anyways, you might want to downplay what you heard. And although this may be a perfectly normal reaction, it's not the healthiest. Keep in mind that denial is one of those stages that can come and go and ebb and flow throughout many years and months. I mean, seriously, you could be sitting where you are now, 5 years from now, pondering back on D-Day, thinking, I still can't even believe that my spouse was capable of this. It's hard for me to wrap my head. They were actually did that. I'm waiting for them to sit down and say, I was joking this whole time, right? I never did any of that because you just can't believe the person you're with had the capability of doing things like that. That's denial. Anger. And I'm gonna tell you something. Even though anger is a stage, man, after D-Day, anger is a nice word because I'm talking about rage. That's anger. But when the full impact of infidelity hits home, pure rage sets in. Anger can be directed to the betrayer or even displaced incorrectly to others, including your children, your boss, your colleagues, your parents, your in-laws, yourself, and even God. I mean, this stage is a difficult one to pass through. And again, there's no such thing as, we go from anger to common peace. The anger over time, and when I mean time, I mean a lot of time and a lot of work, it slowly starts to go away. So after weeks and weeks and weeks and months, maybe you've lost 2% of anger. So, I mean, it is a slow boat to China, letting this rage, resentment, anger, contempt. You are livid. You are a bull, um, and living with a matador. I mean, this I find can be challenging, the anger part. While I would never say that homicidal and suicidal thoughts are healthy, I will say during this stage and phase, they are quite common. All right, bargaining. Bargaining is the beginning of the decision-making process where one or both parties look at offering negotiation. So after infidelity, bargaining usually starts with pleading with God or your partner that this is all simply not true. I'm going to tell you something. If you're watching this and you've had a D-Day, there's no doubt you've been on the floor in a fetal position, in the shower in a fetal position, on the table with your head in your hands, crying out, screaming, begging, God, please make this not true. I will give any limb. I will do any. Please rewind time. Please let this not be true. You are bargaining. You are begging. Eventually, these bargains could be made with each other, with self or a higher being that may include statements such as, And this is again after the initial bargaining. Now you go into a different type of bargaining, which is, well, if he or she promises never to do that again, I might be able to rekindle. Or as long as they tell me where they're going, maybe we can start rebuilding trust. So that kind of bargaining, sets in. Bargaining usually starts out with hope, but it ends in despair. Bargaining is a cruel stage. And when I mean hope and despair, it's oftentimes you're sitting down. Again, this is the beginning stages, and you're saying, Lord, please do, or you're even telling your spouse, please tell me this isn't true. Please tell me what you're telling me is not true. Please, I need you to really be honest with you. Please tell me you're joking. Please, you have hopes. And then when the reality comes in and it's all real, that's when despair sets in. So that's what I mean by starts out as hopeful and ends in despair. It's a very cruel stage. My heart bleeds for people that are in the bargaining stage. Depression, with the reality of the affair comes the knowledge of problems within the relationship that can either be worked out or can't. Either way, one grieves for the relationship that once was, when it was perceived as less complicated before the affair. But obviously, it really wasn't, because somebody had to numb, distract, avoid, cope with something. So they went out and made decisions to numb, distract, and avoid with the chaos of the relationship. So there was chaos. It doesn't seem to be as much chaos beforehand, but that's because things were swept under the rug. Depression has been described as a heavy cloud over your head, which makes it difficult to function, makes it difficult to enjoy life and even get up in the morning. Having a dark cloud or being in a lull after D-Day is common and certainly can last a while. So this lull, this cloud can last a while. However, if depression sets in and stays, that's when you should definitely go talk to a professional. All right, now there's acceptance. So the final stage is that of acceptance. So true acceptance comes when functioning has returned and having knowledge of the incident you have in its entirety. I say that casually because listen, after D-Day, you're given a 10,000 piece puzzle with maybe 4,000 pieces missing. And so you spend the next few weeks, next few months, maybe next few years collecting all of that information. So now you have a 10,000 piece puzzle with now about 400 pieces missing. And I say that because the majority of people, the majority of time, will never have all the information. And there's various reasons for that. Doesn't mean anything's intentional and not intentional whatsoever. But there has to come a point when you decide, I have as much as I need to move forward. I have as much as I need to move on. I don't have it all, probably never will have it all. And I'm sorry to say, you probably won't either. Again, that's for many reasons, none of which I'll get into now. But uh, so now you have 10,000 piece puzzle with 400 pieces missing. You can move on after those 400 pieces. But many people reach acceptance by being able to forgive all parties, including the self. And I'm going to tell you something, and I know I'm going to lose some of you right when I say this. If there's any way, listen, this is my field. I know what I'm talking about. So you don't have to like what I'm saying. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to love it. But if you can step into compassion for the AP, your healing is going to skyrocket. And why do I say that? Because listen, nobody that's happy, healthy, and healed gets into an affair or steps out of a relationship. So if you can apply compassion not only to the person who hurt you, but to the person they were with, boy, you are on a accelerated healing journey. Okay. Forgiveness is like freeing oneself from all the negative feelings associated with the infidelity and being able to move forward with the relationship. And again, if you're not rebuilding and repairing with your spouse, significant other, partner, then just simply moving forward so you are healed to either live in complete freedom, or so you don't take this baggage into your next relationship, should you find yourself in another relationship. Forgiving is a difficult challenge, and for some, acceptance is not dependent on the ability to forgive. So you might want to work that out. Usually, acceptance means that you are further along the way on your journey, but don't despair if you are in or have been in this stage for a while, but another stage creeps up when you least expect it. I told you before, these stages ebb and flow. They ebb and flow, and you don't get into one stage and then you're done, and then you get into another, what have you. They ebb and flow. Um, Listen, I say all the time, none of this journey is fun, fair, or feels good. You just have to do your best to manage each day to the best of your ability. And there's going to be many days where you tell yourself, I don't think I can do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I won't do this anymore. It's tough. It's tough. But if you stick with it and both parties are doing the hard work, you may have lost your happily ever after, but you can certainly have your happily even after.